Out of here. Oof, we gone. Overly, yes, she gone. I'm taking her up through there. Hydra, ho two player. Look, I don't even know the lyrics of that song. Take me through there. Take me. All right, anyway. I think Black Fatigue is real, and I told them why by Steven Crowder. And I've heard of this man before. I've heard him recently. He's had some egregious takes. And so when I heard like he went to like a black barbershop to start shit, I was like, why that name sound familiar? So we're gonna get into it right here, right now. I was gonna react to another person's assessment of the video, but I just want to do the raw shit because I haven't done that in a while.
You guys heard of the term black fatigue?
Mm-hmm. All right, video over. We're not even going to dignify that, so let me stop.
I'm going to ask that.
White people are 12 times as likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around. I'm just going to shoot you straight. It's not even close.
Where?
Across the country.
It's
Ain't
impossible.
nobody coming after you. You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
impossible.
Nobody tripping on you. But these people in just as scared as the other folks.
They are if they get on a bus.
Not necessarily.
They are if they get on a train.
That lady wasn't in danger because that man was black. That lady was in danger because that man was crazy.
Nope.
Whenever we want to ask for equality and fairness, it's a problem. So white America.
So it's been several $1 trillion. When is it enough?
We're the bird.
No.
We're the bird.
You're not
stopping white America from doing anything.
You know what? The bird just burned down $4 billion worth of cities and 60,000 assaults.
No.
There's 3 times to 4 times as much homework than the black kid, and the white kid does 2 to 3. Why?
Because it's culturally, it's conditioned.
Exactly.
So why is it better parenting from Asians than white parents? Why?
You said what?
Well, we're having real talk.
You know what's so funny about this shit is like they willingly go into black areas to talk about how dangerous black areas are. And it's like if you genuinely felt like you were in danger in a black area, you would not be in a barbershop with like a dozen, half dozen black dudes talking about how they're violent. You would think that if you truly believed in that narrative, you would be at a greater risk by literally egging them on and trying to rage bait them if they're actually that violent. But whatever.
Why do young black men fight in packs?
What? What the fuck? Bro, literally everyone in every race gets jumped. Bro, armies fight in packs too. Like what? I don't understand the what?
So a couple of years ago, when I started Black and White on the Gray Issues, I sensed some growing discontent, or more of a racial divide, to a point that they weren't even fully comfortable expressing. But for the most part, when they did, their communication was pretty restrained. Then it was dialed up to near boiling point with the recent cold-blooded murder of Irina Zarutska.
The unthinkable happened.
I want you to understand that girl, she's a Ukrainian, she's a Slavic. A lot of white people don't even consider Slavic people white until something happens when they are accosted or there's an affront committed against them by somebody who was non-white and suddenly they get on a code and they're all white. Just keep that in mind because the construct of whiteness is a very, very, very fragile construct.
Steven, I met Cedric. I think I scared him. I think he was... Hey,
doing all right?
Yeah, man. How you doing? Good.
See, people like this, I wouldn't even be shaking his hand because I know that he's coming in on some bullshit. We know that he's coming in to be racist. I don't know why black people do this shit. I don't know why you guys willingly have conversations with people who are hell-bent on lying and oppressing you. Or at the very bare minimum, just causing detriment to your community and to your race. Like, this guy doesn't even deserve a conversation. But go ahead.
See you. I need it. You guys all have your beards nice and right. I've never learned how to do this shit.
It's because people come here.
Oh, I see what it is. It's a power move. You have me sitting lower. Reminds me, sit with people. I actually kind of slump my shoulders and deliberately kind of make myself smaller, just to not. It's like, what is it? The crab that has the red under its claws is showing danger. So I don't wear red because apparently that signifies poison. But yeah, no. There's all these body language experts now. You watching TV, and I'm like, this seems like horse. Like he looks to the left, so
you see, he's trying to like disarm them emotionally before he gets into it, trying to relate to them before he starts spreading blatant lies and disinformation that has led to countless crimes and atrocities that have been committed against us because of said misinformation. Point being is that and cops do this exact same tactic with suspects, where they'll butter them up, be like, "Hey, I got the same shirt as you." Well, I saw like this one thing. I think it was like an interrogation with Glock 40 Spaz, and they were trying to be all cool and shit with him, And then he's just like, yeah, bro, I make techno music. Like, when it comes to people like this, it's a white tactic. You cannot engage in these types of conversations. Or if you do, you have to understand what you are going up against and then learn how to flip it against them. Because they are going to always try to disarm you first and foremost. And they have done this not just with conversations and debates, but also with warfare. You know, the whole reason how they were able to enslave and eradicate Africans and Native Americans respectively, and then even in India, wasn't through just overwhelming force. It was through subversion. It was through trying to relate to people, creating this false sense of security, and then striking. So they do the exact same tactic. As above, so below. The principle remains the same.
Direction. I don't think that people really understand the gravity of where we're headed. We are vastly sliding into an autocratic regime here. And absolutely. I'll give you several reasons. You see, in order to have, you can't have a one-dimensional approach when you're wanting to continue to lead from a global perspective, all right? What you see here today is an isolationism approach, which what you see...
You can already see how incredulous he is. Like, he's not listening to listen, he's listening to argue.
Here today, and let's look at the long-term strategy they have now, where they just signed an agreement with Mexico to build another canal bypassing the Panama Canal. And when you look at the whole transatlantic corridor, where you got now Brazil and Canada as well as Mexico trading, and they're stopping in Peru.
This is the first time we are. I'm Canadian. Well, I was raised in Canada. Canada sucks. Canada is a dog shit country.
Well, he's not even American. He doesn't even go here. But he has a whole bunch of opinions on black Americans. But whatever. I notice that a lot with people. There's always a bunch of foreigners. You have people with Korean, Indian, even a few African people. But I'm not even going to get on them because they're part of it too. They just don't realize it yet. You got all types of people, Canadians rare, who get on black people for no reason. I saw like something recent. It was like this like Korean dude who was like on the alt-right of Korea, who had like some very offensive things to say about black people for some reason. And it's like, bro, your birth rate is like in the gutter and you're worried about Negroes?
The kind of we're doing, you can't do this in Canada. If you say something too offensive or I say something too offensive, you will be jailed in Canada. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. So
in Republican language, that means if you say something racist, I'm held accountable for it, and I don't like that.
I'm fine with the U.S. being the best country. I came here from Canada because, I have friends who were arrested. I had a friend, stand-up comic, was fined for telling a joke. I don't think people realize how good we have it here in this country compared to other countries. But
my TikTok got banned a couple of weeks ago because I said something about that country in the Middle East. So I don't know what he's talking about where we have like this super free speech in America. It's never really been the case, but it's even less so now. And even if you do have free speech, what does that actually mean? You can't do anything to change the circumstances that you're in, you know? Oh, so you can say, fuck Obama. Oh, fuck Trump. You can't do anything with it, you know? You can't actually change your government. You can't change the two-party system. You can't change the deep state or the shadow government who runs everything.
Everybody's from different places, different backgrounds. Some of us from certain backgrounds know, like, running your mouth too much in a certain space can get your ass whooped.
Yeah.
Like, you free to say what you want. You're just not free from the consequences. Like, the consequences that come with you saying the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person.
Yeah.
And that's where
I feel like a lot of people don't understand free speech. And I ended up getting into, like, multiple debates about this on TikTok before I got banned. Where people said that what happened to Charlie Kirk was an attack on free speech. The only way that could work is if a government entity did it, and there are my theories that it wasn't just the lone gunman who did it. I know that there were other people at play, you know who I'm talking about. But if an individual makes an affront against you and what you have to say, that's not a violation of free speech. If you go in like Louisiana, you say F young boy, right? And you just get whooped, or you go to Chicago and you say F Vaughn, and then, you know, you end up like Lil JoJo. That's not a violation of free speech. That's just you running your mouth in the wrong area and thinking that you were going to get away with there, that the people were sweet, and they show you that they weren't. So no matter where you go, you got to watch what you say. Free speech doesn't mean, like you said, freedom of consequence. It means that the government shouldn't be able to punish you for expressing your opinion, right? But that doesn't mean that you don't face sanctions from private citizens in the form of an ass whooping, or that you don't receive any sort of legal ramifications in the case that, say, you incite violence or something like that, or you incite hate speech, something like that. You know what I mean?
We all have responsibilities in what we say and when we say it.
Yeah. The problem, though, too, and I was kind of talking more domestically. The problem with that idea is a lot of people are offended by different things. And so people get their ass whooped for something they didn't say, right? That's the real thing. I don't know if you guys were following the stabbing there on that train in Charlotte, Irina Zarutska.
Here we go.
Last time I was asking where you guys thought we were, you know, as far as in the country relation. Like, have you guys heard of the term black fatigue? Yeah. You guys know what that means?
Since the last time you came, that's become a thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's just become a recent thing.
And do you know what it means?
No, I'm not sure.
I'm going to ask that.
Notice how he pivoted to what he really wanted to talk about. Why is that white woman right there? But notice how he pivoted to what he really wanted to talk about. None of them caught it.
Yeah, it's a term that's being used by people in the white community, by and large, again, saying they feel like they've been victimized and they're tired of taking that shit. You know, that was a girl who was dying alone in public. And that was a guy who was let out 14 times. 14 times, including violent crimes in the name of racial justice, right? He didn't have to post bail. He didn't have to appear back in court. This is not the first time he's assaulted someone.
How do we know that was in the interest of racial justice as opposed to just being
because the judge said it.
A fucked up attempt at justice, period.
Yeah.
Like, the legal system has its flaws.
Yeah.
And people have been making complaints about that for decades, right? But that's just, to me, that's a mental health thing more than it's a black and white thing.
Well, I'll tell you why, because white people are saying it now.
Right.
Not just white people are saying, hey, we're in
what makes it a bigger thing.
Well, because, you know, white people are 12 times as likely to be killed by a black person any other way around. I'm just going to shoot you straight.
That's just not possible. 80% of the time that a white person loses their life, it's to another white person. It's actually statistically impossible for that to be the case. Also, there's never been an instance in America in which white people have been systematically targeted by black people. Black people don't have the power to do that, and more to that, they're too busy fighting each other, because crime is usually an interracial thing, not interracial, but intraracial within your own race. And that's in every country, in every community across the globe for at least the last 200,000 to 400,000 years of human history. That's just an anthropological fact that nothing is going to change that. Now, when you get into like international crimes, war crimes, mass atrocities, things like that, white people would tend to take the cake, especially in the modern era, the last 400 years. Yeah, they take the cake on that one. And then a little bit of Imperial Japan too, you know. They don't even acknowledge what they did, but that's a whole nother point being. There's never like been an instance in which, and you can even look at like colonization, how Europe initiated every war in colonial Africa or pre-colonial Africa during the scramble for Africa. Africa never attacked Europe, right? But looking at it within the context of the United States, it's always white people going to black communities starting shit. Case in point, right here. You know, he's going into a black area saying you guys are more violent, but he doesn't actually believe what he's saying, because if he did, he would actually be fearing for his life right now. You know, if he's saying that like he's 12 times more likely to be unalived by a black person, and then he's in like a barbershop with like 15 black people, his chances of being unalived. I mean, like, come on, bro. Like, wait, what? I'm no mathematician, although I did go to school for criminal justice and criminology, and then I went to grad school for I went to school for criminal justice and psychology, and then I went to grad school for criminal justice and criminology. So I do know a little bit of what I'm talking about, but let me get into it.
It's not even close.
Where?
Across the country.
Where? Like, not in
the United States. I mean, we're not talking about Ghana.
And like,
yeah.
What I'm saying is,
he has to provide a source.
In white communities, or in quote unquote so-called white communities,
across the country, the rate is a black man or person, because most murders men. There are very few female murders. 12 times more likely to kill a white person the other way around. And then you look at the average amount of times that someone in this country is arrested before they're brought in for killing, charged with murder. Do you know how many times they're arrested on average before they murder? 11 times.
Once again, the justice system's got its flaws, and people have been complaining.
I don't know if that's true. I would need to find a source on that. I don't even know how to. I want to use ChatGPT just to streamline shit, but I don't want to use AI right now. But but again, in my studies, I have never ever encountered such an egregious statistic. Like, that is actually insane. It's not true. Because we know that the justice system is so quick to lock up primarily black boys for crimes that they didn't commit. And I will always refer to that one statistic where during stop and frisk in NYC over a 10-year period, blacks accounted for 25% of the city's population, yet were 56% of the arrests. And white people accounted for 33% of the population of the city, but accounted for 10% of the arrests, meaning that they were deliberately targeting black people. And yet, over that 10-year period, in 90% of those arrests, no crime had occurred whatsoever, which means that they got it wrong 9 times out of 10. So how is it that black people are being caught and released and then going to commit crimes when the country has a history of incarcerating black people for no reason at all? Right? It doesn't make any sense.
And about that for years.
Like, what are the odds that the black people who don't commit the crimes are the ones who get rounded up? Well, the very few, the very, very small minority who do commit crimes are the ones who get released. And it's not adding up.
We spend more time trying to fix that than trying to complain about the white versus black of it all.
Well, I think, just like I was trying to listen to all communities last time, I think this is something that's unavoidable. If this community, if enough white people get pissed off, they're going, look, we're living in New York now, we're getting killed in record numbers, or Detroit, 12 times the rate. And our system, 3 strikes in California, right? That was a 3-strike policy. The reason that was changed, they said it was racist.
Because the 3-strike policy mostly affected black people who had committed like non-violent offenses. It actually was racist, and I knew people, and I know personal anecdotes don't matter with a large statistical generalization or just broader social psychological truth or sociological truth. My fault, but you would have instances where like black dude gets caught with like weed like 3 times, right? By the 3rd time, he's spending 30 years in prison. Like, the majority of people who were caught or who were incarcerated weren't actually committing violent crimes, and most of them were black, and it was part of a systemically racist agenda, policing practices, and so on. But anyway,
Crime went down in black communities 30%. But now people are looking at their cities going, this is a fucking hellscape, and the murder is skyrocketed because people said in the name of racial justice, like 3 felonies, you're out.
Because crime is crime, right? But crime is usually going to be higher concentrated in areas where there's high poverty. So typically the areas that's high poverty in this country are areas with people with this color skin.
That's concentric zone theory. What is it? Broken windows theory? Broken windows theory as well. There's another criminological theory I forgot as well. But yeah, zone theory explains this like perfectly. Black people are more likely to be concentrated into inner cities. Part of the reason for that, this is where history is important, is the Red Summer, which was a period in the South where there was mass racial violence against black people. So a lot of black people fled to the North. I believe this was in the early 1900s. I think pre-1960s. And a lot of black people fled to the North because of how abhorrent the racial violence in the South was. And when they went up north, a lot of them got concentrated into the inner cities. Once they were there, right, after Jim Crow, civil rights, all of that, they needed a new system. And so they implemented the war on drugs, which the Nixon administration started, where they deliberately flooded the black community with drugs, with weaponry, etc., with the sole intention and purpose of making sure that there was more division and infighting amongst the black community. This is well documented shit. I want to publish my research papers, that way I could just start citing my shit again. Well, anyway, this is a deliberate attempt, and it was admitted to by the Nixon administration. I could pull up the quote from my research papers, but that is a systematic issue. It has nothing to do with like inherent racial proclivities. It's a socially engineered outcome. And so as a result, black people are more likely to be concentrated in the inner cities. Black people are also more likely to be impoverished because of things like racist hiring practices, redlining, just mass socioeconomic inequity that leads to poverty. And so when you have that blend of poverty and then the flood of narcotics as a means of catharsis for the strain that you face from the socioeconomic injustice that you face. More people are going to end up on drugs, and they heavily criminalize and penalize that drug, and then people end up being incarcerated, which leads to things like intergenerational criminality. Because when a parent is arrested, especially when a father is out of the household, the probability of a child later on, especially a male child later on, engaging in criminality increases exponentially. And so what we found was that if you want to reduce criminality in all households, right, this isn't a racial thing, but in all households, but this especially applies to Black people, it's either a 2-parent household or just a single father household. But when you isolate the fathers and you put them in prison, because irrespective of race, 93% of prisoners are males and 7% are women, more Black men are going to go to prison, which means that the likelihood of those children engaging in criminality increases exponentially. So you see how it is a very nefarious calculus that goes into this system, that goes to this apparatus.
So that's why you're going to have that. That's why I said those numbers could be skewed and made to manipulate to look like, oh yeah, that's why I said in
not at 12 times the rate.
In suburban neighborhoods, white people are not in danger, and that's what this kind of fear mongering tells them, is that you're in danger because you're 12 times more likely to get killed by a Black person. You live in ain't nobody coming after you. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody tripping on you. But these people are just as scared as the other folks.
They are if they get on a bus.
Not necessarily.
They are if they get on a train.
That lady wasn't in danger because that man was Black. That lady was in danger because that man was crazy.
Nope.
That man was mentally insane.
But why was he back on
family members? He had his own family members call the hospital to try to get him committed. He told his sister he killed that woman because he thought she was trying to read his mind.
Yep. Why was he let out, though? And I'm not saying it's because he's Black.
Yeah,
I'm saying people...
He literally just says because he's Black, because when the guy said it's not because he's Black, it's because he was mentally ill, he said nope. So now he wants to backtrack on that. And it's okay, people can admit that they're wrong, but he's not even taking accountability for the fact that he did double down on that point earlier.
Look at it, though. The judge said
part of Black fatigue?
He's insane, right? We agree.
That's not a black and white issue.
He was deemed not fit to stand trial, right?
Right.
Now,
he should have been institutionalized.
Right. The IOU policy, meaning you don't have to pay bail. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to stay here until you're actually convicted. You just say you'll come back.
Right, which is messed up.
Yeah, the judge, Teresa Stokes, Black woman, said, well, this is about racial justice. We need to be softer on crime. So that's her reasoning. That's why he was out. And you can find dozens of examples.
That's her misguided reasoning.
And that's policy.
But that's systemic, though, right?
That's not representative of a...
That's not systemic, because like he's saying, it's not representative of a whole. It's not tied to a larger agenda. And then the majority of people in those positions of power are not Black people. It cannot be a systematic thing. An individual Black judge having poor judgment is not the same thing as decades or centuries worth of racial injustice and malefactions that have been committed in every level, in every institution by the dominant white power structure. That doesn't make it. I can't even begin to calculate how much of a false equivalency that is.
Oh, it's not. It's not. No, and look, we always have to say not all. Right. Like, not all white people wear MAGA hats and are dumbass pieces of racist shit. But we have all been accused of racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia. What I'm saying is Black fatigue is white people going, you know what? I know I'm not racist. Mm-hmm. And I know that we're dealing with record crime, and I know that I'm more at risk. And they have negative interactions, and they're constantly told that they're not allowed to voice their fucking opinion because they're white. And if those people get pissed off, like, that's where we actually could end up with some kind of, I'm telling you, I see this brewing. I see people who were milquetoast white suburban who are becoming actually racist. Now, not all of them, but I've seen people actually become racist because they get mugged, their store gets looted, and nothing gets done. They're going, and if I say something, it's turned into a racing. I'm telling you what, that's where it's coming from.
You can't become what you're not already. Anytime that happens is because, I want you to actually think about this, right? If you look at the data, like I said, you are more likely to be victimized by someone who is within your community than someone who is without. So if you have an instance where like a Black boy mugs you, right? Which I don't even believe happens most of the time. I really think white people just be making shit up a lot of times. But let's say that what they're saying is true. Like, this guy just made up a whole bunch of bullshit just now, right? Let's say what they're saying is true and there's like that individual instance. Shit happens. And I'm not saying it's justified. I'm not saying it's okay. But it's not indicative of a larger systemic issue, nor is it ever a justification for becoming racist. And I don't like this rhetoric because he's making it seem like it's something that is a logical outcome like based off of say like pattern recognition once something happens, instead of looking at the patterns of systemic injustice that lead to these things in the first place, the patterns of systemic injustice that lead to poverty, that lead to crime in the first place. Nobody ever looks at that. So whenever like the pattern recognition crowd comes into play and they're like, oh, blah 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 blah, well, it's just pattern recognition, they don't look beyond the surface, so you know that they're having a low IQ opinion. These are often the people who are obsessed with the correlation between IQ and race. If they don't understand that there's far more that goes into IQ than just race. There's things like socialization, education, access, nutrition, etc., which things that which Black people historically on the global scale, at least in the last 4 centuries, have been denied access to by the dominant white power structure via things like the legacy of slavery, neocolonialism, etc.
What point do we have a talk and go like, okay, let's reform justice, but we have to be honest as to why it was reformed in the first place? This guy, it's not even the only one. It's every 3 days someone's being offed.
Yeah, but at the same time, let's transfer that over to, I mean, there's a lot of unsafe things in this world. Like getting mugged by a Black person is not the paramount unsafe thing. Right. There's school shootings, there's road rage, there's all of that shit.
Yep.
And the primary people that commit a lot of those are people who don't have this skin.
No.
So if switch it over, if Black people say, well, we getting fed up and we tired of all these school shootings and all of these road rage and all that, who do we say something to? Who hears our voice?
And when does the white fatigue kick in?
And when does the white fatigue kick in?
Well, we've been hearing about white, that's the point, right? We've been hearing about it all our lives, about white fatigue, about systemic discrimination.
But nothing's ever been done.
That's not the same thing.
That's the problem.
It has been done.
Here.
That's why we've done systemic justice reform that has led to more crime, right? That's the reason for no 3-strike policy. That's the reason for cashless bail. That's the reason for catch and release. The reason for it, in the wake of Black Lives Matter, George Floyd riots, Summer of Love, was we're going to reform crime, we're going to reform the justice system, and it's gotten worse everywhere it's been. And then when white people leave those neighborhoods, well, now it's white flight. If they come in, it's gentrification. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of people who are pissed off, and they're not going to sit down and have this conversation and be real about it. And they're going,
okay, let me stop him right there. Nobody is ever pissed off at what he calls white flight or white people leaving neighborhoods. If they want to leave the neighborhood, they can leave the neighborhood. The problem comes with gentrification once they come back, right? And then they start raising the price of property that Black people have historically lived in, and then kicking them out of their neighborhoods, their communities. And we've seen this in the past, especially with like why the country has so many highways and things like that, and how there's a link between systemic racism and the car-dependent infrastructure that we have. Fact remains is that he's victimizing himself right now by engaging in narratives that don't actually exist. And it really speaks to the fragility of whiteness, because it's like, how is it that you guys are the master race, the superior race, the dominant race, yet you're afraid of Black people 24/7 who don't actually do anything to you? Yet you're always the victim, but somehow you're the superior race. Something doesn't add up to me. And then if he wants to get into crime, let's get into it right here. White males, despite being 29.4% of the U.S. population, account for 69.8% of arrests for the R word, 65.8% of arrests for offenses against families and children who are white. 59.1% of violent crime arrests overall were white, and selling your body, over 50% of those arrests were white. Now I know that arrest rates and conviction rates are not the same thing, but whenever white people fall into this thing, and I have a feeling that at some point he's going to bring up 1350, they need to point this out as well. You know, the vast majority of people who do things like Epsteining, you know, are white. That's a form of violence. The vast majority of people who engage in violence, enforced activities, are white men. So it's like they pick and choose. They pick and choose, and like the cherry picking is kind of absurd. I really don't get it. I mean, I get it, but whatever.
well, what happens when someone has to keep their mouth shut about everything?
Nobody tell you have to.
That's how they feel. That's how they feel.
I don't believe white people have to keep their mouth shut. I think white people don't speak up about a lot of the things that they do and they perpetuate that affects us negatively. That's the stuff that nobody wants to. That the issues aren't made about those things. I really respect the platform that you have, because you do have open and honest conversations. And I have to say, I don't believe that those numbers about the black people murdering white people are correct. I don't believe those numbers are correct.
What if they are? What if I'm not lying to you?
If you're not, then I've been misled, and
My thing is, prove it. Just pull up the statistic. Just pull up the statistic if it's that true. I'm sorry, I'm banging on my shit. If it's that true, just pull up the damn stat. I have my shit right here in my Google Doc. I told you I went to school for this shit. But I'm not going to be like, just because I went to school for it, I'm an authority figure. But what I notice about these people, the Steven Crowders, the Charlie Kirks, and the Charlie Kirk wannabes and things like that, they purposely go to have these debates and discussions with people who are either unprepared or do not have the facts or the education on the topic. And I'm not saying that these African American gentlemen are not smart or they are not wise, because they have brought up a lot of very good points. But they don't go to debate people who have done the same degree of planning and preparation. So like Charlie Kirk's whole thing was going on campuses, setting up a tent with a bunch of hungry 19-year-olds going to and from the CAF and then arguing with them about whether or not women should have rights. It's like, and then you pull like some BS stat that doesn't actually matter. And then proliferate it as though it's like some objective truth of reality, knowing damn well that half the time this stat is either wrong or cherry picked and taken out of context. So with this thing with Steven Crowder and people who are so-called like knowledgeable on statistics, they don't go against statisticians. They never invite people who have actually done the research and education on these topics. They only go into these neighborhoods, like going into a barbershop and then trying to debate the numbers and the scale of systemic racism to people who are just trying to get their hair cut. I don't know like what outcome you would expect, because then they're gonna post this and someone's gonna say something that might be off and they'd be like, see, they don't know what they're talking about, blah 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 blah. I've seen this all too often. Hold up. I've seen this all too often, and I don't really fuck with it. It's intellectually dishonest. Like, you have me in that motherfucker, I'd just be cooking his shit. But anyway.
Been isolated from realistic numbers, but I know in this country, from the time that we got here and until now, there's never been hordes of black people that just go out and maraud and menace white people. Interactions happen and things do occur. I'm not saying that they don't, but not by and large in number. We can't be this small a percentage of the overall population and still have the numbers that people try to perpetuate onto us. See, black people do more harm to other black people than we do to other white people.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You know, so
because people who are close.
See, he perked up when he heard that. He perked up when he heard about black on black crime. He perked up. When we talk about what on right crime, he don't want to talk about that. You know, we talk about how crime, again, in general, it's just an interracial issue. They don't want to talk about that. If he was actually intellectually honest, he would just say, well, yeah, that's because crime is interracial. But he doesn't even want to argue that point, because he knows it would completely disprove his entire narrative.
Have historical evidence of groups of white people attacking and chasing black people.
So it's
coming after.
So like, when people say
it's not happening now.
So when
I'm just saying,
and that's the point. We're at a precipice right now.
That's a part of the historical condition.
Well, sure, but someone today.
Hold on.
It does.
My point. I wasn't finished making my point. You know, when like I said, black fatigue, that's the newest mantra that's been put out into society to make people think that, okay, they tired of black people. They tired of what you said, that we can't say anything about black people. We can't do. Well, when you hold all the power, when you hold all the economic rights, when you hold all the things that make this country move, when you're in charge of those things, you know what I'm saying? Well, you know what? I put it like this. White people got the firecrackers, we got the stem. That's it. Y'all got the power. The power is placed outside of the black community. We're charged with all the negative things. Those are the things that are really generally coincide with how people relate to us. The bad stuff that's go wrong with this world is the black people's fault. We the smallest part of this country. Remember that. You know what I'm saying? Beside the immigrants that come here, we have been tasked with the negative, the criminal, the immoral. That's us, and that's what we consider. That's what
we really got to stop adhering to their labels, because their labels don't actually mean anything. Sure, when it comes to like ascribing blackness, I think that we should all look at it as though you are someone of African descent, and you phenotypically present as someone of African descent, you're black. Right. And we need to show that degree of solidarity because we have the same common enemy, because they don't see us as anything beyond that. But whenever they put these other labels on us, we need to stop caring what white people think, because it actually doesn't matter. And you can say, oh yeah, I'm cherry picking. It's just the most logical route considering the circumstances that we're in. But if white people feel some type of way about us, who gives a shit? Like they've always felt some type of way about us, even when we were the ones who were in shackles. They still had something to say about us. One of the main concerns of people in the South when there was talks about abolition pre-Civil War was that if you release black people, you're gonna have a high crime rate. And then what they ended up doing, right, was black people ended up forming prosperous communities that were actually doing better than white people. For a period of time, you had black people, black children had a higher literacy rate than white people. What did white people do? They tore down those communities with violence, right, with violent mobs, and then implemented systems like Jim Crow, the war on drugs, etc., to further divide and create infighting and upheaval within the black community to prevent that from happening. And this is part of the reason why I don't like integration, because black people were actually doing better pre-integration than post-integration, because we had some degree of autonomy over our communities, over our schools, over our education, over our institutions. And it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to give us an edge. And so they saw that and they felt threatened by it. That's why they went in and they destroyed everything. And then they were like, okay, it's safer for you to integrate, because one, you know that now subconsciously, if you do form a community on your own, if you do isolate and form a strong and prosperous black community, it is going to be torn down. And so a lot of black people notice, and they're like, okay, it's safer to just integrate and be amongst them and have our own little pocket communities here and there than it is for us to form a broader black community.
White fatigue, but you know what we do? We just say that's just how it's always been. So we don't make up words for it or terms for it. So now you have a frustrated group of white constituents that feel like, oh, we can't say anything. We have to do this. We have to do that so you don't be deemed as that. Well, if you wasn't that in the beginning to start with, there would be no need for the reform or the feelings that you have. You can't say anything about, because you done treated us like shit for so long, and people finally stood up and said, hey, you got to stop treating us like shit. Now that you want to feel like, you know, things aren't going in the manner that you want them, now we want the right to keep saying those things.
What if your premise is completely flawed? And what I mean by that is, if we're trying to understand it, you said you have power in all those institutions.
Yes.
What if, for example, you have an entire generation of people, young white men, women, who if they apply to a college or apply to a job, they don't have a grant, there's no Pell Grant, there's no type of subsidy, there's no DEI initiative. As a matter of fact, they're likely to be passed over. They hold no institutional power. And when you say black people haven't done anything...
They actually hold all of the institutional power. That's the point, because it's still a white-dominated field. If your own people pass up on you, that's something that you need to take up with them instead of taking it out on black people. Second of all, I think, what was it, like the biggest beneficiaries of DEI was like white women? So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about in that regard. Again, blatant disinformation. Also, whenever they get into this whole, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that, you're not going to be jailed if you say something anti-black. We're seeing a rise right now, which is what my next video is going to be about, in just blatantly racist content creators. Okay? Like, you're not going to be punished for being racist. Whatever you see in the media is designed to purposely create division to make you think that you don't have as much power as you actually do. So you scapegoat black people, and even to a degree immigrants, instead of looking at your own community, which is actually inflicting more harm upon you. Because regardless of where you are, you have more to fear from the things that are closest to you than the things that are furthest from you. So even at an individual level, you have more to fear from yourself and your subconscious mind and your ideations and how you process things than the actual problems and external threats themselves. So now we apply that scale and we just zoom out a little bit more. You have more to fear from within your own household. Zoom out a little bit more, you have more to fear from within your own community. Zoom out a little bit more, you have more to fear from within your own country than you do anybody else. This is irrespective of race. Now, black people are different in that regard, because we do have to fear systemic racism. That systemic racism is close to us because it's a part of the system that we have grown up in, and it has been subconsciously integrated into our identities as black people because it is in every aspect of our lives. So white people don't have to deal with that conundrum. White people never had to deal with it. Oh, you got to work twice as hard. You got to work 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as hard. White people never had to deal with that. White people never had to deal with systemic racism. White people have not historically been discriminated against from jobs because of the color of their skin. DEI was designed to give black people, not black people, was designed to give people who have been historically marginalized of which black people fall into this category, the opportunity to receive the same chances that white men have historically dominated in, that they have excluded people who are not white cis heterosexual men from. Okay, white women fall into this category of the oppressors as well, but they're a little bit different because white men were also discriminated against them, especially post-slavery. And the whole reason for the feminist movement was because white women started to lose their domination, because 40% of slave owners were white women, so they were just as bad of a problem as the white men were, so we cannot actually divorce the two. But even if you look at it, still, the biggest beneficiaries of DEI were white women, and that's right. So obviously they're going to benefit more. DEI, but DEI isn't just, okay, a black kid went to college. It's tampons in restrooms. It's wheelchair accessibility. It's IEPs for students, things like that. That is all part of DEI. They look at it and they create a racist, racialized narrative because it sells. It sells to the ignorant. It sells to the cognitively lazy. It sells to the ill-informed who just hear black. That's the entire Republican or MAGA base. They don't look at everything else. They don't look into the data. They don't look into the narratives. They don't look into the patterns. They don't look into the truth. They see and hear what they want to see and hear every single time. So there's no point in even trying to reason with people who are hell-bent or being unreasonable.